from the All Indiana Podcast Network. It's Diversity Focus Today. Now, here's your host, Rickie Solid Gold Clark.
And welcome everyone to another edition of Diversity Focus Today. I'm your host, Rickie Solid Gold Clark, along with our team, my co-host, the lovely and talented Dr. T in the corner over there with the smile. And guess who's back? He's been away for a minute.
Yes.
And he's got a new hairstyle. A little bit.
You're just jealous, aren't you?
Yeah, I am, because I have no hair.
You don't give me any flack on my various hairstyles here.
You got hair, you know. And so we got the attorney, Mike Murray, back in the house. He's been gone for a half a minute, so we are happy to have him back. So
Thank you. Good to be back.
Yeah, we've got a lot to talk about. I mean, you know, the government gives us so much to talk about, both local and state and federal.
Yes.
Mike, you served in the military for quite some time as a JAG officer.
Yeah.
Here recently, the admirals and the generals were summoned to Virginia.
Yeah,
I think
Quantico.
Quantico.
Marine base.
For a special meeting. I don't think that's ever been done. I've never really heard of that, bringing everybody from all over the world, all the top dogs, in for a meeting that could have been a conference call or a Zoom call.
An unplanned meeting.
An unplanned meeting.
Wow.
And
So
I've been told
urgency with no urgency.
that it costs us taxpayers basically $6 million to accommodate all the generals and the admirals and their staff, of course. So, you having that military background, I throw the mic to you. What is going on? What do you think? I didn't realize, I guess, the Secretary of Defense, or what is it, Secretary of War, whatever he's calling it
Right.
The war.
had that kind of juice, but I guess you do if he's the top dog in the military.
Yeah,
right now.
second to the president, you know, that Secretary of Defense or Secretary of War is the highest ranking civilian authority over the military generals and admirals, and trickle on down to the lowest ranking enlisted man or woman. And so, yeah, he has that juice to be able to call a meeting. Whether he should call such a meeting is probably up for debate. $6 million at a time when we are taking away health care benefits and programs that help people to spend that kind of money in order to I guess really proliferate a partisan political agenda within the military. Well, it strikes me as completely unnecessary.
Yes.
But some of the things that they were saying frightened the crap out of me, really. One of the things that they talked about was, the rules of engagement are no more. We're not going to be hamstringed by rules of engagement. Well, rules of engagement are, they're protocols that are designed to limit or prevent damage to civilians, to civilian infrastructure. They're really implementing international law of warfare. And once the United States decides to get rid of playing by those kinds of rules, then, we're going to be uncivil. We're going to be killing women and children and non-combatants, old people, people that have nothing to do directly with the conflict or the adversary's war-fighting capability. But we're also inviting that onto ourselves, because we're going to then make hospitals free targets and schools and churches free targets. If you get rid of the rules of engagement, that's what you're asking for. You're asking for barbarian warfare. Some people might think rules of war are a little bit of an oxymoron. You're at war. Why not just do whatever you can to damage the person you're fighting with? That's not how international law has evolved over the years. It's designed to be able to prevent widespread unnecessary casualties to civilians, civilian infrastructure. You don't want to have scorched earth policy if you're going to be civil about it. But, so that was one of the things that frightened me about that. But then, they're also eliminating some of the standards and protocols about how military recruits are going to be treated in their training. You can now put your hands on a recruit. What does that mean? We've had many cases where people have been abused, physically abused, and even they died in training. People in the military are still citizens. They're still people. Yes, you want to make them tough and combat ready and worldwide deployable, but you don't want to do things that promote humiliation, sexual, aggression, sexual humiliation, and this is what you're going to get. Some of the things that they're taking away, they're basically saying we want these people to be brutal and tough. Yes, we want our military people to be tough. We don't want them to be barbarian. We don't want them to be uncivilized.
Right.
He talked about, sometimes you shouldn't be in polite company. No, you want your people to be able to function in whatever environment they're planted in.
Right.
So, there was just a lot of stuff there that frightened the heck out of me.
It frightens me just you repeating it.
Yeah,
It just
yeah.
chills like.
Well, it's really transforming our military from, the best military in the world to basically a bunch of rough and ready outlaw people with sophisticated weapons.
But I'm guessing too, isn't it a matter of just common sense? Would our military not just go back to that, or is it just a certain amount of few that would? And he's hoping, like he said, you can leave now if you don't want to be following along with my plan.
And I think that's a big question.
What he's doing is just letting the people that were willing to do it to come up in ranks. Huh?
Maybe that may be
That
part of
moral
his
compass.
strategy, but that poses some serious national security risk to the country, because those men and women who have progressed to become generals and admirals,
Right.
they've grown up with a discipline that teaches we are not going to be doing these kinds of uncivilized things to wage war and protect the country.
Right.
And he's inviting them to go. It's questionable whether we're going to have senior military leadership that is battle-tested, experienced, and trained, whether they're going to leave. Because some of them may very well say, you know what, no. They're military officers. They are trained to follow orders, but they're trained to follow lawful orders.
Right.
Yeah.
And they are people of conscience.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, I haven't seen too many people in the military, don't know of too many cases in the military where people just enjoy wanton killing.
Right.
They are very responsible about what they do. They kill if they have to, but they are not, for the most part, they are not zealous advocates of wanton violence.
Right.
And that's what they seem to be wanting our officers and men and women to do.
So at what point does the military have power to stand up against the Constitution, against
This ain't the Constitution.
to stand for
against
it
the Trump
and
administration.
true that, do they arrest him and court-martial him, or how does that?
No,
they got to go through the impeachment process.
Yeah,
at what point is like we seen this all breaking down? When is it gonna stop?
It will stop when we have civilian leadership that does not promote that kind of thing, and that means people who vote need to vote them out. People who are in office and other offices, Congress, the courts, they need to step up and exercise the power they have. The question is, are they willing to do it? Military people do not arrest, the civilian authorities over them. That would be a coup, a junta. And that's something that we don't do in this country.
Right.
Their choice is either follow the order
or leave,
or defy the order because it is, an unlawful order, and then they risk court-martial, removal, all that kind of thing.
Doing the right
well, maybe
thing.
they can be charged, or they can resign and leave before any of this stuff comes to disciplinary actions as far as they are concerned. But I think that it threatens to have to pose a risk of breakdown in military compliance, the relationship between the military leadership and the civilian authorities over them. I think it's a very dangerous situation.
Do you think it could be repaired if a new person
I
come?
do.
And they
I
will
do.
come back?
Yeah.
Like just
Well,
be paused and come back?
I
or-
think there would be some procedural administrative difficulties if you've got admirals and generals and people who have retired and then they want to come back. But if we replace them before these folks have actually left, if they may have started it in process but haven't actually left, then I think it can be repaired. But if there is a mass departure from the military services under this current administration, it will seriously hurt our military readiness.
And then it will go down to the next person in rank or whoever they hire.
Yeah,
to take over.
whoever is promoted to be in their place instead is not necessarily the next person. But this started with what they call a DEI crackdown in the military. First thing that they did was remove General Brown, CQ Brown, who was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the second black man to ever hold that position, and they called him a DEI hire.
Right.
Yeah.
And people who get to flag officer rank do not get there because they're a DEI hire.
Exactly.
They get there because they're
they
damn
earned
good.
It and they met the standards across the board.
Met the standards,
Right.
absolutely.
Wow.
And then they removed the first woman to ever be in charge of the Navy.
Right.
And they've removed several other female flag officers. But this whole thing, in my mind, it speaks to this idea that people of color or women can only get into positions of power and authority because somebody's giving them a favor, giving them a hand up, not that they're good enough to be in those positions. And I'm telling you, those people who get to those ranks get there because they know what the hell they're doing. And I don't care what uniform color they're wearing. I don't
Gender,
care
anything.
whether they are men or women. If they are there because they deserve to be there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, he had also made a stupid remark talking about, hey, we don't necessarily need to practice overseas. We can practice here in the United States. We can use our citizens. The war within and
the enemy within.
the enemy within.
Right.
It's like, what but this comes from somebody who has no knowledge. He hasn't been in the military. He hasn't even studied the military.
Right.
And certainly his secretary,
Pete Hegseth.
Yeah, he's a knucklehead.
He's served. He did go.
For 2
he
years,
was deployed.
4 years.
Yeah, he did deploy.
In the rank of what?
Major, I think, was his rank promoted to in inactive ready reserves, if I remember right.
Yeah.
But he has some military experience, but he's not clearly, in my mind, relying on that. He seems to be relying on his dogma, on his his indoctrination from the far right.
Yeah.
To guide his actions. But yeah, it's frightening to think that the person sitting as the commander-in-chief thinks that it is appropriate to use American cities and American citizens as a practice ground for the military.
Right.
The Posse Comitatus Act, which has been in existence for years, prevents the use of the United States Armed Services for domestic law enforcement. And this is what he's trying to do. But he's trying to build a military that is loyal to him rather than loyal to the Constitution of the United States, which every one of us who put on the uniform put our hand up in the air and took an oath. We swore an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. We did not put our hands up and swear and take an oath to do what the commander-in-chief says to do to do, to pledge our loyalty to that particular person sitting in that chair.
I
And,
remember so well.
Right.
First thing you do when I got drafted in 1970, the first thing you have to swear.
Yeah,
You sit up there
absolutely.
with 600 folks in the same room, and that's the very first thing they make you do.
Right.
You have to raise your hand and swear and pledge allegiance to the Constitution and to the United States of America.
Right.
That's the very first thing they do.
Absolutely.
So
You
it
know.
seems like what Trump is doing is a lot of hot air, but it's also perception. He's building an illusion for people who's not educated or smart to feel like this is
or
really what's
courageous enough to stand up and say no. Yeah. Yeah.
going on. So the damage is kind of done in itself.
Well, and General Kelly, John Kelly, who served as I think it was his chief of staff
yes.
in the first
Right.
administration, he reported that Donald Trump said that he wanted to have generals, and I assume admirals,
Right.
but generals like Hitler had. So these are people who are loyal to the Fuhrer. Not to the Constitution of the nation. That's frightening.
It is
It is
very much
frightening. The thing that I have some confidence in is the men and women of the United States Armed Services. I think that they will not do some of these things that are clearly unlawful orders. I think they will refuse. Then the question is, what is going to be the outcome of that? It'll be a breakdown in communication, a breakdown in discipline and effectiveness of the military. If I'm Putin, if I'm Xi Jinping, if I'm North Korea's guy, I'm loving what
Yes.
Trump is doing
Of
to the
course.
United States.
Of course.
He is not uniting the United States citizens and marshaling its resources to protect the country from external threats. He's dividing people here and focusing the efforts on fighting within. So if we're focused on fighting within, we are not focused on external threats.
So the ICE agents, would they be an alternative to move over to military, or are they just random people? I still don't know where their qualifications.
Well,
are
they're
anything.
civilians. They are
just-
not military. They
Yeah.
do
Okay.
not train in military tactics. Now, granted, you probably, and I have no figures, no information on this, but I would wager that a lot of those ICE agents are either
Willing.
former military or military reservists. But in general, ICE is not a military organization.
Do you think he's building them up to be
I think
type of thing? 'Cause
I
they're
think,
loyal,
yeah.
evidently.
Well,
In the sense they're giving them the money,
Yeah.
the benefits,
right.
and all that. The
Right.
Feed
But-
the family
but
is easy, but
Right
they
now,
seem
he
like
has
they'd be
them
more
focused.
conform.
Yeah, but he's got them focused on people that he can identify as not Americans,
Oh.
right? At such time as it becomes clear to those ICE agents that they are shooting or threatening or harassing American citizens,
Right.
I think you might have a different story.
Right.
The question is, at what point do you look at that? But
So that's on
we
two
as
different spectrums
yeah.
betwing them and then the generals
yeah.
and everyone.
Oh yeah,
in
they're
that
two
survey.
different, completely different. And if he tries to, use ICE in lieu of the military, we will definitely be underserved because ICE is not trained in military tactics. They're not going to deploy outside the country to protect against international threats. But using them domestically, that could happen.
Yeah.
And at what point will people reach their breaking points and
Right,
say,
that's
"No,
what I'm wondering.
I'm
And
not
what-
firing
I've
on
been
United
broken.
States citizens."
months
Yeah, I
and
mean,
months and months ago.
These guys and the few women that are part of ICE, they haven't even been trained in law enforcement. They don't
Right.
even know the law.
They just
They don't know the
following
federal law,
orders.
and they don't know the state laws. I mean,
So they literally just following orders.
well, what they're
like, just
telling
tell them
them,
what to
and they
do.
have no training. I mean, that the various law enforcement agencies across the country are constantly complaining, as well as, of course, the mayors and governors of the various cities and blue states. Look, when you join anybody's police or sheriff department, you go through training. When I was a rookie, when I joined the department, you go through it was like 19 weeks plus of constant training, and then you've got to go with a field training officer for another another 6 to 9 months. So folks, well, when do I get on the street? You don't, for about a year and a half.
Wow.
By the time you go to the academy, they don't cut you loose until about a year and a half, and then they're still watching to make sure you don't screw up.
Kind of like the counseling field.
And make sure, make sure you don't mess
you just can't
up.
go out there, I got my degree, I want to bless some people's brain.
You can't do that. I mean, know,
Well,
and then some of them, when they get out of the academy, is because I was a field training officer as well, some of them I had to like, you got to go back, reject, or go back, because the first thing a lot of them want to do is come out there and mistreat the citizens. You can't do that. You know, I want to go out there and they don't want to listen. You have to tell them, first of all, each neighborhood is different. You can't go to Broad Ripple and expect folks to be like Fountain Square. You can't go in Brightwood and expect folks to be like Hallville. You can't go to Carmel and expect them to be like the folks in Greenwood. You can't do that. You got to learn your areas and your neighborhood and the people and how they work and how they operate if you're going to be a good officer. Well, or not be fired. You can be fired in your first year for nothing.
Right.
As a rookie, you do anything crazy or halfway crazy, goodbye.
Well, you know the whole thing about people talk about police officers, cops. That term cop originally came from community-oriented policing.
Exactly.
And so what you're talking about is exactly that. Local law enforcement is local. You got to know the people if you're going to be effective. And true policing, and I think we see this in a lot of our senior officers now, and at least in Indianapolis I've seen it. I saw it when Frank Anderson was the U.S. Marshal here too. There is a focus on being tuned in to your local people and what they're like and what their tolerances are.
Exactly.
But you can't just go and bust heads because you got a badge and a gun. Now I'm going to tell a story, okay?
Okay.
I went to school with a guy. I actually grew up in, doing judo. My whole family grew up in judo, and I sparred with this guy all the time. He was from another city, and I'm not going to name names, but it was an Indiana city. And we used to spar all the time. One tournament he'd beat me, then the next tournament I'd beat him, then etc. And the last time before college that we met each other, he came to my dojo and told me he was going to choke my ass.
Okay.
I was like, okay, if you say something like that, you better damn well be able to do it. Otherwise, yours is going to be mine.
Right.
So I made him pay badly.
Okay.
Cut the story a little bit short. Next time I saw him was down at IU in college, and he made the same kind of a statement. He asked me if I was going to the dojo. He said, I'm going to come down there and choke your ass. I say, remember what happened the last time you said that to me? But that guy told me that he wanted to be a cop when we were done with school. And I said, well, why do you want to be a cop? He said, because I get to carry a gun and kill people.
No,
I say, you are exactly the kind of person that does not need to be a police officer.
Exactly.
And they take psychological tests for that, don't they, Rickie?
Yeah, they do. And you have to go through that once a year. I mean, they want to make sure, just in case you get in and then you flip, they make you go to that every year, once a year, to see and make sure. And, of course, if you are involved in a shooting and you shoot somebody, you certainly got to go 2 and 3 and 4 times to get cleared to make sure, because folks say, well, you just shoot somebody. That's tremendous stress to have to do that. I mean, unfortunately, and during my career, I had to do that. And you really it really can bother you. It can tear you up on the inside, even though the perpetrator was a rapist. On that.
Still a person.
He's still a person that you had to
humanity.
that you had to stop. And the only way to stop him at the time, because he was in the process of the rape, was and he had a weapon, and I had to make sure he cleared the victim because he was on top of the girl. And once I was, and I couldn't see it because this is at night. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning. The only lights on in the house was the street lights that I could see coming through the window, and so it was more of a silhouette.
Scary.
You know, but I could see that butcher knife he had in his hand.
Wow.
But still, even though he was a bad guy, afterwards, you know, because your mind replays everything that happened.
It's like, I could have done it different.
Could I have done anything differently? And nope. And of course, the family's truly appreciative of you, and you saved the life, and but it still gets to you, you know, to this day. And that happened many years ago. The different shootouts that I was in and the shootings, I still remember as if it was like yesterday.
Yeah.
So you never 100% get rid of it. Just kind of stores it back in the back of your mind, and different things will trigger, and it'll go from the back of your mind to the front of your mind. So it's like, okay.
And unfortunately, for a lot of professions, it has that trauma relation with doctors and therapists and cops and teachers. You know, they deal with
because you
in
see
the
worst.
classroom that.
Yeah, and I heard that psychologists are or psychiatrists, maybe both of them, are one of those that have the highest stress level.
Have the highest stress levels, right? Because we filter in everybody else's juice, but we have to also know our own and know when to say we can't or can and proceed. So, but definitely it takes certain people mindset, and I think like these generals and admirals, they have the titles and the experience, but they're human. We just got to look through a human lens and say it's not right. Yeah. And I don't know what makes it so difficult for that occupancy person to see that, you know. I know it's ego. I already talked about that before. It's his ego.
Well, I've heard, and you're the doctor here, but I've heard that that person might actually qualify as either a sociopath or a psychopath because there are no feelings, no emotions there.
I can't even say a diagnosis. I have to go through I have to see him. I have to do the whole full assessment and to make a, I can assume a lot of everything, but
yes, indeed.
We have to have the whole full.
We've got approximately 1 minute to go on this one. Well, this is a topic that we could carry over into the next show. So, any closing remarks as we wind down this particular show?
Yeah, I just want to say, people just got to be, mindful of themselves and be safe. Take action of the things that you can control instead of worrying about the things you can't, because we can go crazy in this time.
Amen.
We really can. And I know some people, again, completely turn off the TV and do all that, but it comes back at you. So just try to focus on all that you can do for yourself and your family and treat others the way you want to be treated.
Amen. The golden rule. Well, I know I've been talking a lot in this session, so as we close out, I just want to remind everyone that October the 5th is World Teachers Day, so hats off to teachers, educators everywhere.
Okay, well, good. We appreciate that, teachers, because the teachers go through a lot. So anyway, well, look, we've got to get ready to run out of here. We've got less than about 10 seconds to go. So,
Bye. YouTube. Diversity Focus Day with Rickie Clark. And Facebook and All Indiana Podcasts. There you go.